Hi, it's Nico. Instead of a character study as my Shakespeare videos usually are, we are thinking about love today. Because A Midsummer Night's Dream is such a popular play, I'm going to do a super short plot summary. A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare in 60 seconds. Hermia's father wouldn't let her marry Lysander, so the lovers decide to run away and end up in a wood at night. Demetrius follows Hermia, Helena follows Demetrius. A group of workmen decide to put on a play for their duke's wedding day and go to the same wood to rehearse. However, there are fairies and love jewels in the wood at night. Bottom is transformed into an ass, and with him the fairy queen falls in love. Both men fall out of love with one woman and fall in love with the other. However, at the end, the fairy queen and fairy king reconcile and all the lovers marry the right person, and Bottom and Co put on a fantastic show on their wedding day. The end. 5 seconds to spare. Made it. So much love in this play is the love and adoration of the eyes. Eyes, look, seeing and sights appear in the text again and again. When Helena speaks jealously of Hermia, she always starts with Hermia's eyes. Demetrius loves your fair, O happy fair. Your eyes are lodestars, and your tongue's sweet air. Happy is Hermia, wheresoever she lies, for she hath blessed and attractive eyes. Hermia's eyes are bright as stars, and Helena's purpose for telling Demetrius about Hermia's escape, to have his sight thither and back again. To love her once more, obviously, but the expression is so that he will look at her again. Is it not enough? Is it not enough, young man, that I did never know, nor never can, deserve a sweet look from Demetrius' eye? Again, the fact that Demetrius doesn't even love me a tiny bit is expressed as he never gives me a sweet look. In the last two examples, to be looked at is to be loved. When the lovers are bewitched, both wake up praising Helena's eyes. O Helen, goddess, nymph, perfect, divine, to what, my love, shall I compare thine eye? Crystal is muddy. Eyes are such wonderful organs. Each part of the body does its biological or physical things, but the eyes are special. The nose job is to breathe and to smell, the ears hear, the eyes are there to look at things, but they do a lot more than look and see. They take on the function of another organ, the mouth. Eyes speak, especially the eyes of someone you love. The eyes of lovers can speak with looks, with no need of words. Seeing is closely linked with judging in a play. When the dispute about who Hermia should marry is brought to the Duke, he says, Demetrius is a worthy gentleman. So is Lysander. In himself he is, but in this kind, wanting your father's voice, the other must be held the worthier. I would my father looked, but with my eyes. Rather, your eyes must with his judgment look. When Hermia says, I wish my father would look with my eyes, she means, I wish my father would see Lysander as I see him. I wish my father would judge Lysander worthy as I judge him. But Theseus says, rather it is you who should judge according to your father's judgment. So the eyes here take on the job of the mind. Looking takes on the function of judging. Next, we pick up the idea of worthiness from the same dialogue. Theseus judges Demetrius worthier than Lysander because Demetrius has Hermia's father's support. The next person who talks about worthiness is Helena. While chasing Demetrius into the wood at night, Helena wishes herself to be Demetrius' dog. Use me, but as your spaniel. Spurn me, strike me, neglect me, lose me. Only give me leave, unworthy as I am, to follow you. As far as I can see, Helena is not unworthy in any way. But in the presence of Demetrius, the one she loves, she judges herself unworthy. Unworthy of what? Of him as a husband and of his love. But why? Because I love you. That love makes you my light and my world. It is not night when I do see your face. Therefore, I think I am not in the night. Nor does this wood lack worlds of company, for you, in my respect, are all the world. I am content to be a speck of dust as long as I'm floating in your light. I am the happiest dog as long as you are holding the lead on my neck. In a comedy where we know there will be a happy ending, this might be funny, but in real life, there's so much heartbreaks. Lysander describes Helena's love as a kind of idol worship. And she, sweet lady, dotes, devoutly dotes in idolatry upon this spotted and inconstant man. When love covers our eyes, we can't see others or ourselves clearly, we can't make sensible judgment, we do ridiculous, stupid things. Love is irrational and it makes people blind. The love juice has this blinding effect on Demetrius and Lysander a bit later on, but note here Helena is blind and irrational without the love juice. And as he errs, doting on Hermia's eyes, so I, admiring of his qualities. Things base and vile, holding no quantity, love can transpose to form and dignity. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind, and therefore is winged Cupid painted blind. Nor hath love's mind of any judgment taste, wings and no eyes, figure unheeded haste. At first it sounds like that love looks with the mind, which is the organ of reason. But see what mind does here. It transforms things base and vile into form and dignity. Instead of judging and reasoning, the mind is full of fancy and imagination. There seems to be a distinction between a logical mind and love's mind. Love's mind has no judgment. Maybe love is never based on someone's worthiness in the first place. Cupid is blind and reckless, so is love. The third time we see someone trying to make a judgment while blind with love is when Lysander wakes up with love juice on his eyes. He judges immediately that Helena is worthier than Hermia and explains pretty convincingly that it's because he was young and didn't see reason until now. But we as audience know it's because his eyes are bewitched. Is Helena a better woman than Hermia? For all we know, they could both be terrible people. No one is worthier than the other because there's very little evidence either way. We don't know them very well. Shakespeare doesn't tell us much about their personality or character, so in that sense, I don't know the four lovers as well as I know Helen from Oswald and Answell or Coriolanus. We know the men are probably wealthy, the women were playmates when they were little, and they are beautiful, and not much else. We know so little about them. It's a bit of a shock when we hear Helena say this about Hermia. Oh, when she's angry, she is keen and shrewd. She was a vixen when she went to school, and though she be but little, she is fierce. But who is the worthier woman is beside the point. It's the wrong question to ask. A better question is, how does Lysander change his judgment and move on to the other woman so quickly? Am I not Hermia? Are you not Lysander? I am as fair now as I was a while. Since night you loved me, yet since night you left me. Hermia pleads with the fickle man pitifully. I haven't changed, as in the subject of your love hasn't changed. It is you who have changed. The fairy queen wakes up from her dream and has her eyes open, and she sees Bottom as he is and says, My Oberon, what visions have I seen? Methought I was enamoured of an ass. There lies your love. How came these things to pass? Oh, how my eyes do loathe his visage now. Again, Bottom hasn't changed. His ass head isn't taken off until a line later, but Titania is in love no more. Not because the subject of her love has changed, but because her eyes have changed. Another thing I find fascinating is Titania's restored affection for Oberon. She calls him my Oberon. She never calls him that before this point, and she completely forgets about the argument about the Indian boy. Why don't we as audience think Oberon a tyrant? Because he's just a jealous husband who is punished by his own revenge and in the end rescues oblivious and helpless Titania from a nightmare. Why don't we blame Lysander and Demetrius for loving one woman 1 second and the other next? Because they can't help it. The love juice is powerful and the fairies cast spells. The poor guys, they don't know what they are doing. On top of blind and irrational, being in love is helpless. But I do hold a grudge against Demetrius' fickleness more than Lysander's, because Demetrius dumped Helena before the love juice is involved. For ere Demetrius looked on Hermia's eye, he hailed down oath that he was only mine, and when this hail some heat from Hermia felt, so he dissolved, and showers of oath did melt. In the Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare draws attention to the distinction between man and women in love, and the fact that men seem to be the inconstant ones who break vows, and women are the ones who suffer. For example, in Act 1, Scene 1, even when Hermia is blissfully in love, in a passing comment she says, "By all the vows that ever men have broke, in number more than ever women spoke." And Robin Goodfellow, who enjoys causing all the confusions and watching the four lovers' foolish spectacles, says at first, "Shall we their fond pageant see? Lord, what fools these mortals be." But later on he comments, "Here she comes, cursed and sad. Cupid is a knavish lad, thus to make poor females mad." Cupid's arrow, or the love juice, doesn't hurt man as much as women. Helena and Hermia's eyes are never bewitched, and as a result, they suffer more. They see the change of their love and they don't know the reason. Hermia comes to the painful realization that Lysander becomes disloyal and leaves her in the dark, and she believes Helena has stolen Lysander away from her. And Helena interprets the whole situation as a plot of mockery and humiliation devised by Hermia. The women don't just suffer in their romantic relationship, they lose their friendship too. The idea of what's maidenly and what's maiden modesty pops up a few times. What's the standard of womanly behavior and conduct when a woman is in love? I'll leave the lines on the screen if you want to check them out, but I won't read them out for time's sake. It is not maidenly for Hermia to announce her preference of husband and plead for love. It is not modest for Helena to chase after Demetrius alone at night. It is not modest, it is even shameful for Hermia to even suggest that Helena could possibly have taken Lysander from her. It is not friend-like or maidenly to side with men and scorn a female friend. And add this all up, it's not appropriate or becoming for a woman to chase after a man. When Helena follows Demetrius into the wood, she says, "We cannot fight for love as man may do. We should be wooed and were not made to woo." This might be the conventional view, but Helena and Hermia fight just as much, if not more, than men do in this play. It's not a pretty sight, especially when the lovers are tangled arms and limbs, rolling about in a heap. If this is not in the wood at night in a nightmarish dream, if we distance ourselves for a second and look at this scene from afar, or if this happens in real life, it look uncivilized and ugly. But there is also something wholesome and admirable about it. Under the spell of Shakespeare, I loved watching Hermia and Helena fighting for love because love is worth fighting for, rather than being locked in a room crying her eyes out like Juliet. Hermia and Helena are given the chance to struggle physically, unconventionally, and unwomanly. The lovers do it almost out of animal instinct. Two theatre productions made brilliant use of costumes to express this animal instinct. The productions clad the lovers either in heavy and formal Elizabethan gowns, signifies their social status, or extremely plain and grey factory uniforms that suppress personality and individuality. The costumes from the two productions can't look more different from each other, but their purpose is the same. They communicate the idea that the people inside the garments submit to authority and conform to order. The Athenian outfit represents order and reason. After the lovers get to the wood at night, both productions let them run around in nightgowns and pajamas. Reason and order are stripped off along with their corsets and uniforms. The lovers are not suppressed by social conventions symbolized by their Athenian outfits anymore. The loose pajamas are associated with nature and instinct and obviously with dream. The two sets of costumes, one for Athens, one for the wood, echo something else in the play. Compared to other Shakespeare's plays I've read so far, there's a heavy emphasis on locations and the contrast between Athens and the wood. Athens, day, and authority figures represents order, judgment, and reasoning. In Act 1, the father threatens to kill his daughter, begging the ancient privilege of Athens if she disobeys. Privilege means public right. And the Duke, Theseus, also makes it clear that if Hermia disobeys, the law of Athens yields you up, which by no means we may extenuate to death or to a vow of single life. There's a sense of it's not us who wish to condemn you, but Athens gives you these two options, death or singleness, which is the opposite of life and passion. Hermia and Lysander plan to escape to somewhere where the sharp Athenian law cannot pursue them. And before Hermia falls in love with Lysander, Athens is a paradise, but now it is not a fitting place for love to blossom. Before the time I did Lysander see, seemed Athens as a paradise to me. Oh, then what graces in my love do dwell, that he hath turned a heaven unto a hell. When the lovers get to the wood, Oberon and Puck don't refer to them simply as humans, in contrast to fairies. They call them Athenians. Through the forest have I gone, but Athenian found I none. This falls out better than I could devise. But hast thou yet lashed the Athenians' eyes with the love jewels, as I did bid thee do? It's as if the opposite of fairy is not human. The opposite of fairy is Athenian, and the opposite of the wood is Athens. So we said Athens, day, and authority figure represent order, judgment, and reasoning. The wood, night, and fairies represent irrational and feverish love and chaos. After a whole night of struggle, the lovers are exhausted, falling asleep, wishing for daylight, and returning to Athens. O weary night, O long and tedious night, abate thy hours, shine comforts from the east, that I may back to Athens by daylight, from this that my poor company detest. So even though at the beginning, Athens, with its laws and death threats, is a hateful place to be, by the end, the lovers can't wait to wake up from this madness and go back to Athens and some kind of normality. When Bottom is restored to his rude mechanicals, he says, "Masters, I am to discourse wonders, but ask me not what. For if I tell you I am not true Athenian, I will tell you everything, right as it fell out. Let us hear, sweet bottom. Not a word of me. All that I will tell you is that the Duke has dined. It seems he can't quite decide whether he will talk about the dream or not. The line, for if I tell you I am not true Athenian, is very interesting. What does he mean? When he's back in the city where law and order reign, it's much more difficult to recount the irrational and dreamlike wonders. So in the end, he just simply says, the Duke has dined. When Bottom wakes up, he famously reflects, the eye of man has not heard, the ear of man has not seen. Man's hand is not able to taste, his tongue to conceive, nor his heart to report what my dream was. Love is indescribable, like a dream, sometimes a nightmare, but nothing can describe the feeling of being loved. If you enjoyed this video, here's my Shakespeare playlist. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.